the Hindus have proof for their gods? Well, certainly, at least some of them like to play make-believe, but the answer to that question is no. No more than anyone else does. These people all have the same mental problems. They aren't interested in truth, only their own emotionally comforting fantasies. But we can certainly debunk it all just the same. So here we go. We rarely do non-Christian or non-Muslim videos around here, not because I can't debunk those claims just like everything else, but because, as I've said in the past, most of them, they're not in English and the subtitles usually suck, and mostly, nobody wants to sit through that. But every once in a while, something will pop up, and I just have to do it. This time, we've got a segment from a longer talk where someone from the Hindu Academy wants to tell us where the proof that God exists is. Except he won't have any. None of them ever do. But at least we can compare and contrast to the Christian position and find out that they're all equally irrational. So let's go take a look.
Suppose you say, is there any proof of it? Proof is you are that. You need to experience it for yourself to validate it. There's no other validation.
But that doesn't get you anywhere. This is where you need to step back from your own emotionally held beliefs and be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. Believers in every religion will say the exact same thing. They feel that their religion is true. They have experiences that validate their beliefs. They are convinced by these experiences and their own reactions to their religious beliefs that they have to be correct. If you go by that reasoning, then every religion everywhere is automatically right. Except you can't have that because most religions are exclusionary. They're right, everyone else is wrong. Their gods exist and no other gods do. How does that work exactly? So you're going to have to do a whole lot better than that. What you've said so far makes no rational sense.
Every intellectual gymnast I can offer to you, you can knock it out. You can kick it out saying, just deploy their words.
And that's a problem for your side. This goes for all religions. If every single argument that you can offer fails in the evaluation, then your religion falls apart. It doesn't matter how it makes you feel. It's demonstrably false. And this is really where things start to go sideways. The religious tend to go two ways. Either, as our Hindu friend here, every conceivable shred of evidence shows that their religion is wrong, or they go the way of William Lane Craig and many other Christian and Muslim apologists and insist that they've got evidence that they're right. They just can't present it because, you're not going to believe it anyhow. At no point can any religious apologist say, I'm right, here's how I know I'm right, here's the evidence that proves I'm right, let's have an intellectual discussion on the objective merits of my beliefs. That never happens.
The answer is experience, my friend, experience.
But experience doesn't tell you anything about the real world. There are people who are supremely convinced that they were abducted by aliens and had probes shoved right up their asses. There are people who claim to have seen ghosts and demons and even say they've been possessed. Are their experiences just as valid as your own? Are they crazy? Are you crazy? How do you tell the difference? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what experiences you claim to have had. It matters if you can independently and objectively validate those supposed experiences and prove they ever happened in reality. It's the only way to rule out delusion and brain damage and simple mistaken interpretation from the mix. If you look up in the sky and you see some animal in the clouds, You haven't actually seen a rabbit or a horse in the sky. Your brain is just playing tricks on you. It's a well-known phenomenon. Your brain seeks patterns that you can identify, even where those patterns don't really exist. You had one experience. Reality is something completely different. You need to learn to tell the difference.
That is why, remember, I started my today's talk by saying the reason why I was drawn to Swami Vivekananda is, here is a man, just philosophizing Advait and Neti Neti and Iti Iti and all that. I've heard that, I've read that. It doesn't really appeal to me because there's no, if you like, something I want to put my grab.
But that's the thing, and I apologize if some of this is hard to understand, but there are no closed captioning on the original video, so we're just going to have to muddle through. This is really why I don't do a lot of non-Christian, non-Muslim videos, because a lot of them, they're kind of hard to understand or not in English. Anyhow, he was saying something about elements of Hinduism appealing to him, and my question is, so what? Reality doesn't have to appeal to you. Reality only has to be real. I may hate the idea that the speed of light is 186,282 miles per second. I may find the idea completely reprehensible. It doesn't matter though. It is what it is, and my feelings have absolutely no bearing on the facts. It doesn't matter if you like reality. It only matters what reality actually is. And this is one place where religion completely falls apart. The religious are far more interested in their beliefs making them happy than they are in their beliefs being true. It doesn't matter what appeals to you. It matters only if you believe the truth. And this actually came up in the comments of this very video. Now, when I was working on doing this video, I came across the comment of Deconverted Man, and I just kind of ran from there. And somebody from the Hindu Academy, I assume, came back and started saying things. And I started saying, well, where's your objective evidence? How do you prove that's true? Yada, yada, yada. And it's amazing, the second the word objective came out of my mouth, he shut up. Why? Because objective doesn't matter to these people. It's all about fifis. And that's just pathetic.
And I can't grab that. So the only thing I could do is, here is a man who is talking about religion, the idea of the spirit, not as an intellectual game, but actually something to experience firsthand. And he insisted that you can't be truly religious unless you experience or get a glimpse of the spirit yourself.
But again, you haven't shown that any of this is true. And if you go through the comments on the video, there is someone, and I don't know if they're connected to this Hindu Academy or not, but it's the same guy who was saying things to me. They just keep repeating, universal love is God, over and over and over again, as though that actually answers any of the questions. It doesn't. It just doesn't. These people don't understand the difference between a statement of blind faith and a demonstrable fact. They're not concerned. Not one bit. Now, it's clear this is part of a larger talk that we simply don't understand the context of, but everything he said so far, even being as charitable as we can, has been absolutely wrong and utterly indefensible. This is because the religious aren't looking for the same thing that we are. They want emotional comfort, and we want fact. We don't care how they feel, and they only care how they feel. It's why we never come to any kind of common ground, because there is no common ground to find.
That is the only proof of this particular enterprise. You must touch base with it. Look, the reason why I'm so passionate about this subject is, this is what drove me, this is what brought me into religion. I wanted this to be experiential for me.
Who cares? I mean, this guy does. Like he says, he's very passionate about it, but that doesn't actually mean anything. Alien abduction fanboys, they're also very passionate about that too. So are flat earthers. They're just wrong. All of them happen to be wrong. Just because you want it to be true, that doesn't make it actually true. Just because it makes you feel good, that doesn't make any of it objectively real. And where the religious, in this case, can be passionate about their beliefs, and we see a lot of them that are, none of that proves a damn thing. Passion doesn't equate to proof. It doesn't matter how much you want something to be true. It is or it isn't based on the facts, not on your feelings. And I don't know why the religious can't get that through their heads.
If I could not experience this thing I'm talking about, it has no value.
Yes, it does. Everything in reality has value. Now, it might not have a direct emotional impact on your life, but it still has value by the virtue of actually being real. At the end of the day, you can believe in all the imaginary gods you want. It can make you feel absolutely amazing. But you've ultimately just wasted your time because those gods aren't real and you just engaged in complete nonsense. Now, granted, it is your time to waste. If you want to throw away the only life you demonstrably have, yeah, that's up to you. Go ahead. I can't stop you. But these people aren't just throwing away their own lives. They aren't just wasting their own time. They are trying to convince other people to do the same thing. And that's what I object to. Ruin your own life if you want. Stop getting on YouTube and screwing up other people.
And I would say the same to every youth, every youngster, every thinking Hindu. Look, my friends, you heard this gymnastics I'm offering to you. It may appeal to you, it may not appeal to you. You are open, I'm open, saying if it doesn't appeal to you, avoid it.
But that's stupid. You can't avoid the truth. You can't avoid reality. Ultimately, you have to deal with it whether you like it or not. You don't get to just pick and choose the things that apply to you based on what appeals to you. That's a fundamental problem with the religious. They think that life is a smorgasbord and you get to just go around the table and pick the things that you like and leave the rest behind. It really doesn't work that way, sorry. The facts are the facts. Reality is what it is. People have to figure that out whether they like it or not. It's about time a lot of these people grew the hell up.
Look, openness of this tradition. But I'm saying, unless you touch it or taste it yourself, you can truly not believe it. You will not. How can you just live on words? You need to get that thrill, that experience. And the youth love experience, love this kind of like spiritual. So I'm saying explore it.
Don't explore it. Test it. Care if it's real. Care if you have any good intellectual reason to take any of it seriously at all. Be concerned about the facts. Rational adults deal with reality as it is, whether they like it or not. They don't have a choice. Neither do you. It's right there. You can't avoid it. You can't pretend it doesn't exist. You need to face it head on and then worry about how to handle it emotionally down the road. The religious are not handling life like adults. They are behaving like petulant children. They think they get to make up all the rules and insist that reality goes along with them. And that's not how it works. Some things are within your control. Most things are not. You have to know the difference and how to handle the disappointment. And they don't. They just don't.
There is a great deal there to explore. And when you get a glimpse of it, even a little glimpse for an instant, you will be hooked. Your life will be changed, transformed forever for the better. And that's another proof of this enterprise. You'll be transformed for the better. You will know it.
I don't want you to know it. I want you to prove it. The religious have a problem with that. And if you think about it, it's very analogous to the Dunning-Kruger effect. And for people who don't know what that is, in psychology, it's the tendency for the people who have the least ability in any given area to vastly overestimate their capabilities. They think they're better than they are because emotionally they want to be better than they are. But the religious do the same thing, except for them, it's with claimed knowledge. They think they know things that they have no means whatsoever of knowing because they desperately want those things to be true. It's all about desire and never about objectively demonstrable evidence. They want it, and like immature children throwing a temper tantrum, they will kick and scream and cry until they get their way. Or they will just say, well, I know this is true, even when they don't. And they don't understand why people look at them funny.
Because you'll be living life far more intensely than you ever thought possible. Because here at the moment we think we are living such a good life. We have went on holiday and we did this. This is nothing. So look at the scenery of the Alps, they told Vivekananda. Look at these Alps. Vivekananda said, look, I have actually experienced the spirit. Alps are all right.
But the Alps are at least real, unlike the spirit. You haven't experienced the spirit, at least not demonstrably so. It's why I ask the questions that I ask. You think you've experienced God? How do you know that? How have you tested your claim to see if it holds evidentiary water? Because you haven't, and you won't. Because you can't. Because reality doesn't mean a damn thing to these people. It's why experience doesn't mean anything unless it's demonstrable. I can claim to have had an experience with invisible, intangible, universe-creating pixies. It can feel incredibly real to me. I can have no doubt in my mind that it actually happened. But you know something? It means absolutely nothing unless I can step back and put my claim to the test. How do I know that? How have I intellectually challenged my experience to see if it actually happened as I assert that it did? Because at the end of the day, what I say happened is irrelevant. It only matters what actually happened in the real world. And the religious are really good at just making this shit up for emotional reasons. And that's not something to be proud of.
But I've experienced the spirit, my friend. I've experienced the spirit.
Says who? And how do you know? Define what you mean by spirit and show that you've actually experienced this demonstrable spirit that you claim is there. How do you know that you're not delusional? How do you know that you don't have brain damage? How do you know that your brain chemistry isn't completely out of whack? How do you know that you didn't just make a mistake? How do you know this wasn't a complete incoherent mess? These are all valid questions that the religious have no answers to. In fact, if you ask them these questions, they'll do everything in their power to avoid answering them. How do they know? Well, they just do. It's all blind faith. They don't need anything else. Except they do. They need more whether they like it or not. They're just not rational enough to understand that. If you hope to convince anyone else intellectually that what you claim happened actually did happen as you describe it, you need a whole lot more than just, well, this is my story. And that's why they don't appeal to intellect. They appeal to emotion. They're looking for people who are every bit as gullible as they are. And that's why I call religion a scam. Even Hinduism.
The beauty of that experience, the kick you get, is actually out of the world.
I know this is getting old, but how do you know? These are people who don't understand basic brain chemistry. Something happens, they interpret it blindly in some emotionally comforting way, they get a kick of dopamine, and wow, it's all got to be true, right? No, that's not how it works. Because if you look at these religious interpretations, they are almost always just stapled on to some relatively mundane event. No, you might not have an immediate explanation for how it happened at the moment, but the religious never go back and try to make any kind of rational sense of it. They just assume God did it, and they go on about their merry way. Well, I found my car keys, therefore God. That's stupid. It really, really is. Yet, that's the kind of mentality that we get from the religious. Go look at any conversion story from the religious, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Those wonderful events just don't demonstrably connect to God in any way, shape, or form. They never do. It's just tacked on for emotional purposes. And even if a real-world explanation is later found, the religious don't care. God did it. It just makes them feel good to believe it, so they're not going to give up their emotional security blanket. Because ultimately, they're all just little children.
And this is not just airy-fairy. You meet people who are actually based in experience. And when they talk, when they open their mouth, you know the Spirit speaking, taking on a human form and talking to us.
Come on, say it with me. And how do you know that? I mean, really, you claim that knowledge, but how have you achieved it? It's just confirmation bias. I met up with a bunch of people who all believe the same things I do, therefore we're all right. No, it just proves you're all crazy. The only way to prove you're right is with evidence, and you got none of that. You need to walk through your entire belief system step by step and prove each and everything that you believe is defensible in objective reality. You can't do that. You don't even try. It's to provide reasoning based on reality, not rationalization based on your faith. I've talked about this before, but if you talk to a religious apologist and they say, if God exists, then something, they don't really mean if God exists. They mean because God exists. It's not a question, it's a statement. And it's a statement that has no rational underpinnings whatsoever. They don't care about proving it because, according to them, it's already true because they believe it. And I can't imagine failing harder than that.
This is what drives me. This is what catches my attention. This is what actually attracts me. Unless I can experience it for myself, it has no value. And I would say the same to every youth.
Then you're wrong. And this isn't just for Hindus, although we don't see it from their perspective a lot for obvious reasons, but it's for all theists everywhere. The second you say, but my feelings, which is exactly what they're saying, the second you say that, they lose. They've abandoned the intellectual field of battle. They've just admitted that their feelings mean more to them than the facts, and in that case, yeah, you go stand over there in the corner with the rest of the stupid people because you can't handle rational discourse with the intellectual adults. You might as well be talking to the flat earthers or the anti-vaxxers and the people with the tinfoil hats on their head. That's the level of discourse that you're down to. Faith doesn't prove anything, and the sooner the religious can get that through their heads, the better. But if the religious could do that, then there would be no more religion, because religion depends on having those irrational faith-based positions that cannot be defended intellectually. It's like talking to the guy in the straitjacket, babbling about giant monsters coming to get him. He's not able to articulate the reality of his claims because there's something severely wrong with him upstairs. And I think the religious have something wrong with them too. They just can't make the leap from irrational, emotional, blind faith to caring about reality. And that's a mental problem. It might not be enough to declare them officially insane, but it certainly is enough to declare them irrational. That's not something anyone should be proud of, yet the religious are. Even this guy thinks so. There is something severely wrong here. Maybe we should stop playing along with the religious crazies and start insisting on facts. It would make the world a hell of a lot better place than it is today.
Bum